In this video, I will be talking about cognitive theories. We have three categories to talk about: Piaget, Vygotsky, and neuroscience. The first category I'm going to talk about is Piaget. He made a model describing how humans make sense of their world by gathering and organizing information. Piaget came to the conclusion that everyone has two basic tendencies. One of these tendencies is toward adaptation. An adaptation is made up of two basic processes. These two basic processes are called assimilation and accommodation. Accommodation is altering existing schemes or creating new ones in response to new information. And assimilation is fitting new information into already existing schemes. Piaget also believed in a process called equilibration. This is a search for mental balance between cognitive schemes and information from the environment. Piaget also believed that all people go through the same four stages in the same order. These four stages are the sensory motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational. The sensory motor stage involves the senses and motor activity. Pre-operational stage is the stage before a child masters their logical and mental operations. And concrete operational stage is when mental tasks tied to concrete objects and situations are learned and stuff like that. The formal operational stage is mental tasks involving abstract thinking and coordination of a number of different variables. Piaget's thoughts are given in step-by-step processes, which is called discontinuity. These are periods of change or stages or steps or anything that isn't gradual over time. It's more like step-by-step processes. Like this happens, and then the next thing happens, just in stages or steps. The second category that I'm talking about is going to be Vygotsky. And Vygotsky is the founder of the sociocultural theory. And this theory emphasizes role in the development of cooperative dialogues between children and more knowledgeable people of society. Children then learn the culture of their community through these interactions. Vygotsky also believed that cultural tools and psychological tools play very important roles in cognitive development. Psychological tools would be tools that allow children to transform their thinking by enabling them to gain greater and greater mastery of their own cognitive processes. They then will advance their own development as they use these tools. Cultural tools are the real tools and simple systems that allow people in a society to communicate, think, solve problems, and create knowledge. He also had ideas about private speech, and private speech is children's self-talk, which guides their thinking and action. Eventually, these different verbalizations are internalized as silent inner speech. And he saw that this child's self-talk was not a sign of cognitive immaturity, but more children in stages. It moves the children in stages towards self-regulation. His teachings were a little bit different than Piaget's. His were continuous by phases, and this was continuity. This is a gradual development of increasing endurance by phases, and sometimes these phases overlap, so it's not a step-by-step process such as Piaget's. He also talks about ZPD, which is the zone of proximal development, and this is the zone of the closest, most immediate psychological development of the children that includes a wide range of their emotional, cognitive, and volitional psychological processes. Vygotsky also talks about nurture and nature. Nurture is the influence of external factors after conception, and nature is influenced by genetic inheritance and other biological factors. The last category I'm going to talk about is neuroscience, and neuroscience is made up of the cerebral cortex, which is the outer layer of neural tissue of the cerebellum of the brain, synapses, which are the tiny spaces or gaps between the neurons, and neurons, which are nerve cells that store and transfer information. Within neuroscience are also processes called myelination, plasticity, and sensitive and critical periods. Myelination is the process by which neural fibers are coated with a faulty sheath called myelin, and then these make message transfer more efficient. The sensitive period is the time when a person is especially ready to learn certain things or responsive to certain experiences. And during the critical period, this is when learning is most beneficial. It's when it's going to do the most for the child. So if learning doesn't happen during the critical periods, it never will. And then plasticity is the brain's tendency to remain somewhat adaptable or flexible. These are cognitive theories in relation with Piaget, Vygotsky, and neuroscience.